Look, if you don't know how to use Keepa, you're not gonna be successful and make money on Amazon no matter what. That's why this video is so important, because by the end of this video, you're gonna learn all the skills necessary in order to become an expert in how to use Keepa, so that way you can go out there confidently, buy any products and make money. And I'm speaking from experience, having sold over $2 million in sales, and I promise you the results speaks for themselves. So let's not waste any time and let's get started. So guys, this will be a masterclass, and here's the timeline so you can follow along, and when you do rewatch this video, it's a lot easier for you to follow. So you're probably asking, why do you need Keepa? Why is it that important? And the simple answer is that Keepa is your cheat sheet, and its job is to show all of its history on everything that sells on Amazon FBA, so that way you can gauge if it's going to be a good product to sell or not. And the beautiful thing about Keepa is that every single product that you can think of on Amazon, they all have a Keepa history. This is why you need Keepa, simply as that. Think of Keepa as like your gas when you go driving. You know, you can't go anywhere without gas. It's really that important. And this is beneficial because number one, price history. So how Keepa does it is it helps you understand if its current price that you see on Amazon is going to be high, medium, or it's at the bottom, cheapest price. And as you know, selling on Amazon is all about buying low and selling high. Number two is it tracks its sales rank. Basically what it means is that it tracks how well the product is currently selling. So an excellent product equals a low sales rank. Think of like a bestseller, right? Like a bestseller book. Number one bestseller is gonna get all of the sales. So you might want to consider selling those products. Just a hint, you know. Number three is going to be competitor analysis. Keepa pretty much shows you how many competitors or offers available on that product that you are potentially trying to sell. And that can give you an idea if it's going to be a lot of competition or very little competition, because you want to have the advantage as much as possible. Let's go over product number one. We're gonna go over the basics, very surface level, so that way you can follow along, especially if you haven't used Keepa before. And we're gonna go further, deeper into more advanced stuff, into the analysis aspect. When you download Keepa, you're gonna have the Google Chrome extension. It's gonna look like this right here. So right now we have a blank slate, so that way it's easier for you to follow. And we're gonna go through each one of these one by one right here, so that way you can fully understand what its job is when you're looking at a Keepa graph. Because I remember when I first started looking at this Keepa graph, it was foreign to me. But don't worry, it's gonna come second nature by the end of this, so just simply follow along. We're gonna break it down. First one we're gonna go through is going to be the Buybox. The Buybox is super important because that is the price advertised to the customer currently shopping on this item at Amazon.com, whether that's on the computer or on their cell phone, tablet, so on and so forth. So let's click on the Buybox right here. As you can see, it's this pink color, and I'm just hovering through. As you can see, these are the different prices available. If you go back January 16, which is 3 months ago, right? You can see right here, 3 months. Its price was $23.95 for 1 day versus to where it is now at 28 something. Actually, it's $28.44. So this is the current price that someone is going to pay if they're gonna buy this product at this current timeline. So that's why this Buybox is important, because it shows you the history of an item, how it was performing before. Because in point of Keepa, we're gonna gather as much information so that way we can use it to predict the future, to make our best decision when we're investing into buying these products, so that way we can make some money. So 3 months right now is where the history is, but if you click the year underneath here, okay, so you can see, you can go back to a year. And if you want to see the whole history, whenever this item was first live on Amazon was 2,077 days ago, back in 2019. So this is how powerful this software is, so that way you have an idea. But usually in my settings, I like to leave it within 3 months, just because things can change, you know, if it was like back 2,000 days ago, right? So this is the product we're looking at right here. It's the Glossier Boy Brow products, okay? So next, after understanding the Buybox right there, is we're gonna look into the sales rank, okay? So let's take off the Buybox. Now we have the sales rank. As I mentioned earlier, sales rank is super important because that is the indication how well the product is selling. So let's hover through the sales rank like what we did in the buy box. So it's currently 25,000. It kind of goes up and down, right? 12,000 here at one point when it was in January, so it might have been a popular product, you know, right after Christmas time. So, but again, in general, you want to have an idea where it was. Maybe if you want to go back a year ago, it's still a good product overall. It stays under, you know, 50,000, 60,000. That's kind of like the max there, okay? And it's a good rule of thumb as a beginner in terms of sales rank. You want to stay under 100,000 sales rank. And that is important because it will let you know that this product will still sell fast and a lot of velocity or quantity each month. So guys, now we have two things in our Keepa chart graph right here. We have the sales rank and the buy box. I want to talk a little bit more of the buy box so that way you as a beginner have an understanding, because the buy box, you have to understand that it rotates. So people who are selling this current products have the ability to get the opportunity to sell this item as long as they are competitive in terms of this current price of $28.44. One thing here as a beginner you need to pay attention: lowest price does not guarantee that you will get the buy box. There's a lot of factors of what will consider that you might get the buy box, right? So let's go over a couple things. There's no black and white answer to this. It's just from my experience of, you know, getting a buy box winning percentage. So number one, the first thing that Amazon, if you think about it, is they prioritize Prime. So if your item is currently available, like you sent it like maybe 2 weeks ago, it's at the Amazon warehouse now, it's available for someone to purchase immediately, they will prioritize your product versus someone that just sent it maybe yesterday, even though they might have the lowest price, but their item is not available. Guess what? Amazon's gonna put someone in the buy box because their item is available now. Even they may be priced, you know, $1 more, $2, whatever it may be, because they are prioritizing the Prime fast shipping. That's what they are known for. Number two reason to get the buy box rotation, it kind of helps with the first one in terms of availability, is location, right? Like I'm here located in Florida, so a lot of the items I send pretty much stays on the East Coast, right? I might go to like Charlotte, New York, Pennsylvania, around that area. But if someone's trying to buy an item that I'm selling, same item, on the West Coast, I might not get the buy box because someone might be there closer to them in terms of the Prime shipping. It wouldn't make sense for Amazon to send an item from the East Coast to the West Coast. It would cost them gas, you know, driver, whatever it may be, versus someone already has an item checked into the West Coast. It's a lot easier for them to ship that item. So location does play a role in terms of getting the buy box rotation. Now, if you are the only seller, let's say you're the only seller in terms of selling this product, then of course, you know, everyone will buy from you. But if they have multiple options, that's why the buy box rotates. So there's a lot of factors that really involve. So another thing is going to be competitive pricing. You know, you don't want to price like $20 from the current buy box because you're not going to get the opportunity to be featured on the buy box. So you want to stay competitive, maybe, you know, a couple dollars in there. Definitely do not undercut someone by a penny. That's, you know, how price tanking works, especially with a lot of sellers using, you know, repricer, which is a whole nother subject. And again, do not be the cheapest price. It's not gonna give you the buy box guaranteed automatically. And lastly is, you know, seller's review. Amazon loves when a seller's been their partner for a long time, as they're getting reviews, more credibility, right? So they're gonna prioritize that a little bit versus someone that maybe just started Amazon, right? So not saying you're not gonna get the option if you are still brand new, but you're not gonna get as much maybe percentage of the buy box versus someone that has been selling for maybe like, you know, 5 years, 6 years. They have like hundreds of reviews. Maybe they have more in stock of the item versus maybe you only bought maybe 5 or 10 because you're still not sure of the product, versus, you know, that big seller might have like hundreds of units, 200. So that helps with the buy box as well. All right, let's continue on our Keepa graph here. I like to hit the rating next, okay? So this item is rated 4 stars, 4.5 or 4.4 stars, okay? I just like to have that. Next one is reviews, okay? The reviews is really important because it's going to help us validate if a product sells or not. Because, you know, when was the last time you left a review from something you bought from Amazon? A, you might have never left a review. B, it might have been very rare because it takes time to do all these reviews, right? So no one really wants to do it unless maybe they had a really bad experience. Yes, I'm gonna take a photo and complain about it, but chances are, like, getting reviews is very hard. That's what I'm trying to, bring home to the point here. So if you see a review like right here, 919 back in January to versus where it is now, 942. So there's 30 reviews between 3 months. So I don't know the exact statistics, but let's say 100 people buy the product. Maybe 1 person, 2 people, 3 will leave a review. So that just tells me, it's like, okay, this product's been bought hundreds of times because they only had 30 reviews, quote unquote 30 reviews, but it adds up. Like, so this is another indication or clues that can help us validate if a product will sell or not. So that's why this is important in terms of your settings here. And lastly, we're gonna look at the new offer count right here. This is basically competition, right? When you're looking at a product, offer count, think of it as competition. Because if you're looking right here, right? Back in late February 25th, you can see on the map here, there was 9 offers. So 9 people were selling this, and it's slowly going back up, right? Maybe peaked here at 42. Okay, so there's 42 other people I'm competing with. So if you're looking at a product, this is a good indicator if it's going to be either competitive or not, right? So in a perfect world, we want to make sure we have less competition as possible, so that way we get the sales, right? Who doesn't want that? So that's why this is really important. At a quick glance, it doesn't mean a lot of sellers does not equals you getting the opportunity to sell, because we have to know how many times this product sells per month. So for example, let's go back here, right? So let's say there are 43 sellers, but let's say this product sells 20,000 per month, right? So maybe you divide 20,000 divided 43. I don't know what that is. Let's do it real quick. So we did 20,000 divided by 43 sellers. So it comes out to 465, roughly estimate if each seller has that. They can sell about 465 quantity of this item. Now let's do the opposite. Let's say there's 43 sellers, right? Let's stick to 43, but it only sells 100 times a month. How many quantity can you sell? So you have to kind of think of this as kind of like supply and demand. Everyone knows supply and demand. As you can see right here, there's still demand, right? In terms of the sales rank, we already know that. And the supply is going down. So you can see it started 44 sellers back here in February, then it started to go down, right? As you can see, what happens to the price? It goes up. So it was like 23, now it goes to like 30 bucks, 31, maybe 32 at one point, right? The less sellers it is, the price goes a lot higher. So now if you see a graph that there's a rise in sellers, you may guess what happens to the price, right? It can go down. So we're gonna talk about that later part in the video of red flags of things to avoid. There's other things that you want to avoid as well, so stick around, make sure you watch that part. All right guys, so let's go to the next section here, as this is pretty much the basic surface level of a Keepa graph, where you can see a lot of things visually, right? At a glance, you can see where the price is, the seller count, so on and so forth. But let's get into the data numbers, because that's where the real stuff that will help you really determine if a product sells or not. So we're gonna go under data tab right here. So you can see it's the 3rd one from the price history, okay? And right off the bat, you can see there's so much information, but don't worry, we're gonna go over it, the things that you only need to look for. So wouldn't it be wonderful if they tell us how many times this product actually sells per month? Well, Keepa tells you right here. Bought in the past month, 700 plus, under the beauty and personal care category. Another reason why you need this product is your cheat sheet, okay? Now it shows you, the last price change, all that stuff, the buy box seller. Now, let me go and show you what I look for when I'm looking at a potential product to sell, is this average right here, okay? So the buy box will always get our full attentions, because that is something that customer sees and it's been imprinted in the data and analysis. So the past 90 days, the average price of this is $27. So no matter what, if someone might have sold it, $30 plus, or maybe $25, they're gonna meet in the middle. This is why average is so important, because numbers do not lie. So we wanna rely on numbers, right? So 27 bucks, 42 cents is going to be the average the past 3 months. So that is something that we can take in order to make our decision in the future, because I can rely on this thing that the average, we're gonna get $27 on the sales price. Another thing you wanna pay attention as well is going to be the sales rank right here, okay? So you have the average, kind of like the buy box, but this one breaks it a little bit further, which is nice. So you have the 90 days. 90 days is 3 months. 60 days is 2 months. Then you have your 30 days, which is the past month. So as you can see, the average right here, the rank goes up a little bit, nothing crazy. You don't wanna go see a ranking where it's like maybe like, let's just use the example, 19,000. Maybe the next month it goes to 100,000, right? So we don't wanna see a big drastic change like that. We'd like to see, in a perfect world, Keepa graph is gonna be consistent and flat. So that's pretty much in terms of the product detail. Let's go into the next one here, which is the offers tab. Okay, it's right next to it. So this will give you the most clues in terms of how often the product really sells. We have the numbers. Now we're gonna gather more clues and information, right? So that way we can make the best decision. That's basically our job here when we're doing analysis is, collect information. All right, so let's use this seller, for example, Supersonic Supply. That's the name of the seller. Okay, so back in February 19, they had 357 in stock. Okay, this is the stock history column right here. Now, if you just hover through down, you can see them slowly selling, okay? Then by March 20th, they have 16 left. So between start of February, right? Let's just do March 1st, just to be easier. March 1st, they had 354. Then by March 22nd, they had 3 items. So within that month period, less than a month, they sold over 300 units. So that tells me this product sells. I'm just validating what I saw from the graph already earlier in other aspects as well, okay? Now we can see what price they were selling it here, okay? So that's why this is really important in terms of that. Now they're currently selling it for $31. Okay, now we look at other sellers, right? We're just validating all this information that it's still selling. This person here had 6 quantity, now they have 1. Okay, they maybe restocked back to 5. So you can pretty much go through any sellers here that have a stock history, and you would want to see how many they have been selling in the past, 30 days. You can even extend it. As you can see, graph range in days. We're looking at 90 days, but if you want to extend it back here, the whole year, same settings and control you can have as the other tabs as well, okay? One thing you do just have to be careful in terms of looking through this tab right here is the sold 30 days column. It's not accurate, it's not a black and white, complete 100% data information. So roughly, that's why they have it here, estimatedly 376 units. I know on the other tab it says 700, so that's why we want to get as much information to see if it's really selling and how many, okay? Next tab here, we have the buy box statistics. We kind of talked about how important the buy box is, how you get the rotation, but this one kind of digs in terms of what percentage do each seller wins the buy box, or how often they get rotated in the buy box, right? So Supersonic Supply, as the example we had used from the offers tab, they had the most supplies, right? So of course, possibly they get the most percentage, which they do. They win 17% of the time. Their average price was $29.88, okay? And you can look at their review count. I mean, they have a lot of reviews. They're over 865, okay? Versus this one has 0 reviews, right? But like, again, it doesn't have to be the lowest price. We can even sort this out here. This guy has the lowest price in terms of winning the buy box at $26.77, and he's winning less than 8%, which is crazy. So as a beginner, if you found a product that's profitable, don't lower your price to the lowest one immediately. You want to make some money. Another takeaway in this tab in terms of buy box statistics is you want to see a rotation going on. Basically, everyone's getting a turn. You don't want to see a person that's pretty much dominating the buy box, or they're taking majority of the percentage. All right, guys, let's take a look at different Keepa examples, so that way you can have visually know what it looks like. We're gonna go through different ones, so that way you can see next time when you're sourcing, maybe you can identify it. Like, hey, Lester was showing this example here, so let's go ahead and do that. The first Keepa example we're gonna go through is that a Keepa graph where Amazon is selling. Alright guys, we have the Adidas product here, Daily 3.0 sneaker. So if we scroll down under the Keepa graph here, as you can see, it's a lot different than what we were looking before. That is because Amazon is on this listing. So if we hit the little orange thing here, that is Amazon. So whenever you see a Keepa graph that has an orange thing, best to avoid it, especially, we're just starting out, right? The reason for that is it's so hard to compete with Amazon, because if you think about it, Amazon buys in a lot of quantity, so it's super difficult to compete with them in terms of pricing and to make money. I mean, you have to get the item itself, like, maybe for $1 or free, just to compete with them, because in order to win the buy box, right, competing with Amazon, you're gonna have to lower your price way more than what they have right now. So that's why it's really hard to compete, and it's best avoid, especially if you're just starting out. And to prove that point, actually, let's go to data here, right? Remember where we went over buy box statistics? So you can see right here, 95% of the time, Amazon wins the buy box. And this is where the instance where I guess the lowest price wins the buy box is, you kind of have to give your item away, and I don't know if you're still going to be making profit, but 47 bucks they had to sell here in order to win some percentage of the buy box. But again, best avoid it as a beginner. Number 2 example of the Keepa graph here. This is a great Keepa graph if you can find this item profitable right here. So we're using the Ordinary Face Serum set. If you scroll through the Keepa, Amazon is not selling this, so we're on the green light already. But just like looking at it, look at that, nice and flat, right? So looking back at January, I can easily predict what's going to be like what it is now, right? April, where we're recording this, it's most likely going to be the same price. That's why this graphs like this, where it's super flat, they call it a stable graph, is easier to predict versus a crazy one like what we looked at earlier, where there's a lot of price changes. This one, if you look at maybe a year, it changed a little bit, but again, it's right back to where it is now. Like, there's a little hump here. The price went up because few sellers went down, right? But again, the last 3 months, it's a nice stable graph. So that's basically what we're looking for in terms of like the buy box itself. Where the price is, I mean, the seller count is pretty stable as well, so there's not much going on. So if you do find a product like this where the Keepa graph is stable, that's a great indicator that the price is gonna be there once your item's checked into Amazon. So third Keepa example graph here, we're gonna talk about a seasonal item, okay? So there's a couple scenarios where this may come in handy. So the first one is going to be like, Christmas season, right? Like, some products only sells during Christmas, like, maybe a Christmas light, right? It becomes popular. Toys, that's another excellent example where there's really high demand in terms of toys, like Legos, stuff like that. Winter jackets or winter clothes in general, they have their own season. In terms of the summertime, they have their own season as well. Like, think of hats, sunglasses, swimsuits. So there's a lot of seasonalities. The example we're gonna go through here is a college algebra book. So think of college, they have 2 semesters per year, right? One in the spring and one in the winter. So I didn't have to guess on this, but if you really look at it here, let's zoom out, okay? A year, as you can see, random spikes throughout the year, right? This means maybe like a person, maybe 1 or 2 bought the book itself, but if you look through January, actually let's zoom out a little bit more and take the other stuff out. Okay, let's just focus on the sales rank itself. As you can see right here in the sales rank, I'm just zooming out so you can see the whole picture and have an understanding. Looking at the sales rank here, it kind of goes like this, right? It kind of goes like this, like waves. So on the lower part of the wave, if we zoom in, that's where the sales rank really dips down a little bit. So January, start of the semester, more people are buying books. So you can see right here, almost 500,000 ranking, right? Like barely getting sales. Now the semester starts, it goes to really low sales rank. So this is what they call a seasonal item. So if you're looking at other products that we had mentioned earlier in terms of seasonality, like I don't know what's coming up here, Thanksgiving or Halloween popular with candies, you're gonna see similar type of Keepa where it spikes up so high during its off season. As the season comes in, it's gonna slowly starts to dip down. So now let's go over what to avoid in terms of reading a Keepa graph. So the first one you're gonna wanna avoid is a rise in seller, meaning there's a lot of people are jumping into the product itself. because if we go back to it, remember, supply and demand. If there's more supply, guess what happens to demand or the price? It goes down. So this is one of the first things we want to avoid when we're looking at a product right here, okay? So you can see right here, the seller's goes up and down, but here in February, it really spikes up in the offer count right here, right? 55, 54, 58, around that thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at the buy box. Look what happens to it. So the more sellers rise up, the price simply goes down. Guys, supply and demand, it's really that simple. So of course we apply the other thing where seller counts go down, the price spikes up. So this is why it's something you want to avoid, right? So of course we can't see the future. We're looking back at the history, but again, even just right here, maybe back in January, right? So let's say, pretend we are at January 2nd. So I go back to my history 3 months prior, January, which is October. I mean, I can slowly see right here that it's going up. Yes, at a glance in terms of the buy box, it's pretty flat, but I need to know my job to predict the seller offer count is going up, the price will go down. We need to get that ingrained in terms of our head. So that's the first example. Avoid any listings or products if there's a rise in seller count. Guys, another thing you want to avoid, or a red flag, is if you see a seller, it doesn't have to be Amazon. We're just using Amazon's example here. So let's pretend Amazon is a different, business owner. If they win the percentage 80% or more, and there's a lot of competition going on, and they still winning the buy box or hogging it, for lack of a better word, best to avoid that, because it's going to be really hard to get the opportunity to be rotated in terms of the buy box. So treat those big sellers, most likely they're going to be a big seller, whether they're wholesale, regarding in terms of that, they just have a lot of quantity, is to avoid them, because it's really hard to compete with them unless you have room in terms of your profit and margin where you can lower the price. Then you may get the opportunity to get the buy box, but majority of the time they might have the lowest price already or very competitive, and it's really hard to find and source those products they're selling and still make money. Another thing to keep in mind is that nothing is guaranteed. You may have the flattest Keepa graph ever, but the future is not guaranteed. We're just using clues in order to predict what's going to happen in the future. So keep in mind, it may happen occasionally where it just takes one seller to ruin the pricing or undercutting someone by a penny. So there's no guarantee in terms of the future, but don't let that stop you from still sourcing it, especially if it's a flat Keepa graph. One reason that you may think price can change is that maybe that item was out of stock, only a few sellers have it, so that's why it was stable or flat for a couple months, but then now it's back in stock and it was easily available for people to buy it. So then they started lowering the price because there's more supply than the demand out there. And you would want to put yourself in a good situation in terms of sourcing, because you want to think of it as kind of like bowling, right? Like when you first started to bowl when you were a kid, you have guardrails, right? So that way the ball doesn't go to the gutter. So in terms of sourcing, in terms of finding products on Amazon and reading the Keepa graph, you would want to know where the guardrail is, and that term we refer to as like the floor pricing. Basically, what is the bottom line that the Keepa had recorded in terms of the buy box price history. So let's determine what is the floor price of this product right here in terms of the ordinary, okay? So I have the graph range here in terms of a year view, okay? So that way I can just make sure I can see the whole past year, what has been the floor or the lowest price, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look here. So this seems to be the floor price right here, okay? At 25 bucks, okay? Let's just round it off at $25. So the past year, the lowest this item has ever been sold, recorded in terms of the buy box, is $25. Now, when I'm looking to find this product, see if I can find it profitable, I'm gonna wanna think like, what is the worst case scenario of the pricing? So in my mind, based on looking at the Keepa, its lowest price was $25. So at $25, am I still going to make money, break even, or am I losing money? So these are the different scenarios when you're doing analysis and looking at different Keepa graphs. It's like, what is the floor price? You always want to remember that and put those guardrails. Another Keepa graph that you would want to avoid is what they call a suppress buy box. So basically you don't see the buy box as often as a normal product would be, where there's a buy box no matter kind of like what the pricing is, as long as it's within, you know, the competitive price. So for this one right here, as you can see, at some parts the buy box you can see that's where the pink number is, and in some parts it's not, right? So just looking at it, it's kind of like missing data, or it's kind of like a puzzle you kind of have to put together, right? As an advanced seller, you may be able to figure this out, but as a beginner, it's simply best to avoid at the moment, because you're gonna spend a lot of time deciphering this puzzle where you could have found like another product that's way easier to solve in terms of the puzzle, right? Or a lot easier to keep a graph. So this is what they call a suppressed buy box. Just keep in mind, or that may answer your question. Hey Lester, I saw some products where I was sourcing, but it doesn't have the buy box, or it only shows up a couple of times. So basically a suppressed buy box is something that a customer can go search for, right? So if you're selling this product, it might not sell because it's suppressed, they can't find it. And guys, let's go over the last section here, which is the advanced stuff in terms of the Keepa. And this is where you want to start paying attention. This is what's going to take your game of Keepa reading into the next level and make you an expert. The first one we'll go over is what are variations and how you can start reading variations and start using it as your advantage. So imagine you are shopping for a new pair of shoes, right? And let's say you want a specific color, and of course you have your shoe size, right? So instead of opening a new page every single time, so let's say I like white shoes, I'm size 10. So shoes white 10, shoes in yellow in size 10. So I'm gonna have to open up a new tab. So what Amazon thought of is to put everything in one page, so that way you as a consumer, it's a lot easier for you to shop. Everything is on one page. You just do a little, you know, a little drag and drop, okay? So let me show you guys. Nike Blazer 77 vintage shoes here, okay? This is the classic color here, if you didn't know. However, there's available in plethora of different colors, right? If you want this blue, red check mark, black, so on and so forth. Then you get to select your size. So this is what variations are. Now, looking at this, not every single color is going to be selling the same. The classic Blazer is going to be the most popular, right? Just because that's the iconic shoe, versus like maybe a blue one. People still gonna shop for it, but maybe not as much. So that's why this is really important to read. So let's go to our Keepa graph right here, right? So now you'll notice there's a variation tab they had added in terms of products that have variations. So super useful. And what's really cool about it is they added this column here. You can simply sort this as who's getting most of the sales, right? So that's kind of like what I predict, it's gonna be the classic color. They're selling 50 plus per month, right? Now, these are identical, but if we scroll down here, they have sizes, okay? So 14 and a half in women seems to be one of the top right there. Then you have the size 13, 10, so on and so forth, right? So this column right here is super helpful just to have a basic general idea what color sells. But if you really want to get into much more detail and the nitty gritty, I like to go to ratings and sort it from there. Just because remember, we're going back how often people give ratings and reviews is very far and few in between. So if you have the most ratings, it's the most popular product that's getting sold, right? So size 10 right here, right? 200 plus. Okay, then you have the second one here, 100 plus, and these are going to be common sizes. Like sometimes you might just have to use your common sense as like, you know, like men's sizes common is between 8 to 11. That's going to be like the popular sizes where the normal people are. Women, it could be, you know, size 7 to size 9. That's the most common sizes in terms of there. And again, it kind of fits kind of like what we're looking for, right? So that's how I would determine which product is the most popular in terms of selling variations. And you would determine if you were going to look for this product, right? You'd want to buy the product that sells a lot. I'm not saying don't buy maybe like the size 6 because people are still shopping for it. Just be mindful of how many products you are going to buy. You don't want to buy like 100 pairs of size 6 where maybe 5 people, 10 people only buys it, right? Maybe if you buy 100 of the size 10, which is the most popular product, then yes, it kind of makes sense. So that's why this is really important to put 2 and 2 together when you're reading variations. And other common variations can come into not just apparel or shoes, but also in terms of groceries or beauty items, right? Like groceries will have multiple packs, like a 2-pack of like a makeup, a 3-pack bundle, or a set, right? That could be a variation as well. In terms of makeup, you have different colors or flavors, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of opportunities in that aspect as well. Another advanced stuff we're gonna learn here is looking at the price tracking and how we can set alerts to ourselves. So we have the Stanley product right here. It's super popular as we speak. And as you can see, the seller count is going down. There was 140, wow, 140 sellers in terms of that. As you can see, the price goes down from where it was before. So maybe I want to sell here when it's, $63, $64, right? It's a product that you can keep an eye on, and Keepa will let you know, alert you via email if the price or whatever settings you may want comes back to the price or the numbers that you would want. So let's go to track product tab right here and dive right in. So the current price right now is 37. Wow, that's a big drop. Okay, it doesn't even have a buy box, but it's showing 37 right here. 37.51 is the current price. Let's go to data. Yeah, it doesn't have the buy box right now. Okay, so anyways, let's go back to track product right here, and let's say go back 3 months. We want to sell this back when it was like $58 bucks. Okay, so what I would do is type in $58 here or more, right? 58 bucks or more if the price goes up on the buy box. In this situation, there's no buy box. Type in $58, right? Or more, okay? If there's Amazon selling, again, we don't have to worry about that because we're gonna avoid product on Amazon. So these are the 2 settings I usually like to use. And sometimes if you go through the Pro, you can go through the offer count here, sales rank, so on and so forth. So for example, if you want less competition, because there are over 100 sellers in this one, maybe when it goes down to like 50, right? I'm just using an example, you guys. So when it goes down to 50 sellers or below, like 49, 48, Keepa will let me know, like, hey, what you're looking for, here it is. So this is useful, especially if you're looking at a lot of products that you have an eye on. Instead of manually checking one by one, Keepa will alert you straight to your email, like, hey, Lester, this price went down to 58 bucks. Where you want it to be, let's go buy this product now, okay? Or the seller count as well, okay? Now, I go all the way at the bottom, and you can track it for up to 10 years. So I usually just keep it between 3 years or whatever, depending on the history. If the product has been selling for for a long time, like let's say 4 years plus, then maybe I'll leave it to 10 years because there's a product that's gonna be there. But if it's a newer product, I usually keep it 3 years and I just hit start tracking, and that's it. It says we're tracking the product for you. You can view this. You can change it anytime, by the way, you guys. You can just go to track product. But again, I'll send it to my email there whenever those settings that I've inputted lets me know. And if you guys want to learn how to find profitable products to sell on Amazon, check this video out right here. Thank you so much. Catch you later.